In the spirit of Christian Science, I was looking for more Chinese porn cartoons, and I stumbled upon this gem. What unfolded was the most unpleasant and stunningly mundane, yet sloppily edited and slapdashedly constructed shit I may have ever seen. It's called The Winds of Ebenbourg, which is appropriate because I certainly wanted to blow my brains out while watching it. Not today, old friend. Not today. Well, round 2, I guess. Starting out with one of the most horrifically annoying train sounds I've ever heard, we open on this putz. This guy is our protagonist. I'd like to call him Plank, because his biggest personality trait is that he has no personality.
You ordered the beef dinner with vegetables and salad, correct?
Oh, yes.
Well, you're in for a real treat, Monsieur McDonald. Tonight's beef dinner is Wiener Schnitzel. Actually, it's my favorite, and I'm proud to say that it's the specialty of the train. Really good.
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, as you can imagine, this talk of sausage has me quite hot and bothered. Wait, why the fuck is he hover-handing the seat cushion? It's clearly not gripping anything, nor is he putting any weight on it. Could they not have moved him down an inch or at least, crop the screen to cut that off? I mean, it's not like we need to see his horrifying deformed goat legs. Okay, I should just move on. If I were to stop for every single animation error, we'd be here all day. Okay, let's do this. Plank here is a merchant on his way to accomplish 2 things. Shop his wares and plant his disgusting seed in the womb of every unattractive MS Paint abomination this series mockingly refers to as a woman. Let me take this moment to introduce you to Screech. Screech's moans are about as sexy as infant leukemia. I'd mention more about her, but I'll be honest, she doesn't fucking matter. Also, while conversing about his dead dad, they decide to do a sex.
Come to Ebenbourg, where your late father used to live.
Why are you doing this?
Don't ask anything.
I guess rotting corpses really get her baby factory up and running. I know I can't show you any of this, but trust me when I say this is the most unappealing sexual intercourse I may have ever seen in hentai. Like, her vag looks like someone stuffed an old sock with milk and jammed a flesh-colored Slim Jim in it. It's all about as arousing as animal abuse. I know it may seem like I'm harping on it, but between the sound she's making and the image of her nasty beef curtains getting what looks to be a bulbous hand puppet of a dick jammed inside of her, I may have achieved anti-erection.
Miss me with that gay shit, nigga! Fuck out of here!
Ever since my mother died, I've worked at many stores.
And after the abomination I call sex, I like to converse about my mother's decaying body. Really readies me for round 2. So we finally get a little backstory on these two. See, apparently Puppet Dick over here wants to be a
great merchant,
and then explains why he has absolutely no experience in mercantile affairs. Fuck. Apparently by that logic, since I worked at KFC at some point, I am well versed enough to run a multinational food chain. Screech gives the big reveal about Plank's lineage, which means literally nothing to us other than Muppet Dick is a royal from some backwater buttfuck town, with one of the dumbest surnames I've ever heard.
Your real name is Claude Flavini.
It sounds less like royalty and more like a stage name of a sad clown who routinely gets arrested for masturbating at children's events. So finally we're given a breather from the high-octane A plot as we start the B plot. We see the Grey Man. Who is this intimidating figure? What are his motives? What does he want with our lovable piece of lumber? I don't know, and I don't think I'll ever care. I really appreciate their inability or unwillingness to edit the goddamn lip flap so the English voice actor could say his lines in a fashion that did not make him sound mentally deficient. I was able to fix this in less than a minute with minimal editing.
Okay with sharing a room? Or how about a private room? Okay with sharing a room? Or how about a private room?
So this old cunt slams her glass down on the table, probably due to her rapid onset dementia, and ruins Puppet Dick's delicious
Wiener Schnitzel,
saving Plank from being drugged and no doubt lovingly molested by Tall, Dark, and Rapey. This results in Schnitzel Boy getting a boot to the chest and a fall to the death. Now I know if you're anything like me, you've grown attached to him, and you will no doubt be wiping a tear from your eye and writing a sad Tumblr post for our beloved. But I think I speak for everyone when I say, he may be gone, but he is not forgotten.
I thought we'd get to see forever.
but forever is gone away. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday.
He will always be in our hearts. Arriving at his destination, he bids a farewell to the ditzy old broad under the watchful eye of the G-Man. Then, as all professional hitmen tend to do, he chooses the perfect time to strike, in broad daylight in the middle of the road in full view of everyone. Luckily for Plank, however, someone made the grave mistake of letting a woman behind the wheel, and as expected, if it doesn't involve makeup, complaining, or penis, she's bound to screw it up, resulting in Chester the Molester getting Looney Tuned right into a fucking river. So I'd like to note, at this point we've met 3 separate women. Screech, Grandma, and now this bitch, that I'll just call Squeaker. I have no idea why they hired these voice actresses. Maybe it was because they felt they best suited the roles that they had. Or maybe it was because they had one female intern who said she would do it for an 8-ball and a tab of acid. Either way, this girl's voice goes right through my ears. Plank, however, hearing the high-pitched shrieking, mistakes Squeaker for a frightened family of bats and attempts to save them, soon realizing that he has instead rescued what cancer would sound like if it had a voice. If there was a just and loving God, Squeaker and Plank would have both Christopher Reeved themselves, and the last 13 minutes of this piece of shit would be watching them slowly die of exposure, and witnessing the last bit of light fade from her eyes. But because God is dead and we killed him, they both survive. Upon regaining feeling in their lower spines, Squeaker decides the only way to punish Plank for interrupting her daily suicide attempt is to marry him. Doing the only smart thing he may ever do, he does his best impression of My Will to Live. Finally reaching the castle, he is greeted by Maidbot, and we get to see just how talented the writing staff is.
Do something! Gah.
I don't know what's worse, the fact that his penis looks like someone stretched out a half-chewed stick of bubblegum, or that this is the closest to anything involving sex we've seen in the last 15 minutes. Either way, I'm gonna beat off to it, so it doesn't really matter. So, after a quick bath, Plank decides to see if Maidbot would like to awkwardly flirt, and then have her inexplicably jerk him off. She agrees to, but confesses that her programming dictates that before every act of copulation, she has to list off all of the other things she would rather be sleeping with.
A rat or a fox, or maybe a wolf.
Thankfully, Plank is a degenerate furry, and hearing this, they yiff good and hard. We finally get our next and final sex scene, and it's everything I imagined and more. What follows is what I think a Mormon would draw if they were forced to illustrate a sexual act after being bludgeoned about the head and neck. The only way this could be less sexy is if your parents were sitting there watching this with you, unless you're into that sort of thing. Continuing to do their best impression of what a blind virgin thinks sex is like, they finally climax, proving that maybe 2 bombs just wasn't enough. And after all that, we see Chester sharing some ominous words and leaving us on a cliffhanger. As if I'd ever be stupid enough to watch the second episode of this piece of shit. This hentai reminded me of death, and no, I don't mean to say it just made me feel like dying. It reminded me of my existence and how the time I've spent watching this are moments I can never get back. This reminded me that annihilation is the only hope we have as a species. We are given so much to strive for, to achieve, and we spend it like this, making this. So I'm left with a choice. I could finally kill myself, and when I'm dragged screaming to the Stygian chaos, I and all the other gnawing, wailing souls shall form a creature so pure of lustful wrath, a creature so obscene the very pillars of creation shall quake, and from the burning static of our hatred we shall tear forth, infecting all things with our disease of unlife. And you shall know we are near when you hear the gentle sobbing of your long-dead loved ones drifting on the foul winds of our dark prophecy. In an instant the sky shall break in two, and the moon shall fall from the sky, and from the dying earth shall come we who are many, we who are endless, we who shall upon wings of decay shall consume all things good and ill. And in our left hand we shall hold a dying star, and in our right the wailing essence of an elder thing, and from our 1,000 mouths in 1,000 languages shall come our dark revelations. We shall begin our sermon of suffering across all realities, and when we sail the screaming eternities on a ship lashed together together from the corpses of the worlds we have obliterated, and before we finally expunge the last sentient being and then ourselves, we will whisper to an uncaring sky, winds of Ebenbourg. Or I could just rub one out to a better porno. Probably just gonna end up doing that. 3 out of 10.